Right, hi everyone, welcome to the channel. So I've done a few things before based on, trying to green your home, net zero your home, and so what I've covered so far is trying to get your floor insulated. So we've done the Cubot solution, which is a little robot car thing with a squirt of foam that goes under your joists and floorboards, drives around and insulates the crap out of your floor. We've done the smart air bricks, which I've done because I didn't quite have enough room for the Cubot. Nice handy little device, but has it revolutionised how warm my floor is? Probably not. How much has it done my heat loss? Well, it might have only reduced it by a very small amount, really. Not sure it's that financially great decision, but wanted to try something to improve the comfort of a solid uninsulated floor in my home. But one of the main things you can do is to get an air source heat pump. So that is what you're seeing here. Lots of the people that have inspired me in this sector have already got an air source heat pump. I've wanted one for years. Tried to get a free one through an Eon scheme and a council scheme recently. Well, recently, it was 3 or 4 years ago, but didn't quite pull it off. And I know one of my friends, Tom Bray, and I'll put a link to his channel here now. Have a look up here. Has had one available and it works very well, and I'm very keen to get a good one. But there can be difficulties because they work by just delivering the same amount of heat as you need that's leaving through your walls, your roof and your floor, but can work very differently to how a boiler works. So a boiler works by making the water very hot and sending not that much of it around your pipes to each room, and it would drop 20 degrees of heat. So it might be going out of the boiler at 70, but it would be coming back at 50, and it's dropping 20 degrees of heat and doesn't have to send that much water to get your house up to temperature, and then it would go off. And so ideally you're supposed to have these things returning at less than 50 to help them condensate. Maybe I can't do a full what is a condensing boiler talk right off the cuff without reminding myself and researching it again, but essentially the dew point's about 50, and so that water coming back is hitting the combustion chamber that's at 1,000 degrees or whatever, and so it needs to steal that heat so you don't have hot steam going out of your flue, because essentially that's energy you want to heat your home. And so the lower you can get the return temperature, the better. So ideally you're sending out at 40 and it's coming back at 20, and then it can suck up loads of the heat that goes out of your flue as steam, and actually you don't want to see it as a big, really strong plume of steam coming out of there. You want it to be invisible, so no visible steam, etc. But anyway, forget condensing boilers, we're talking about air source heat pump, and they work by delivering loads of water, but instead of dropping 20 degrees, only drop 3 or 5 degrees. So you want to send around water at 48 or 45 degrees, and for it only to drop 2, 3 or 5, and then go back to get heated up again. And so if you imagine if you're dropping a lot less and your radiators are 45 or 35 and not an average of 60, they're going to put out a lot less heat unless you throw loads more water through them. And so that's how they work. They have really high flow rates, so that loads of water is dropping little heat in order to put the same heat put out. So if you need 1,000 watts in a room, you can get that by putting not a lot of water through at boiling temperatures, dumping loads of that heat and then going back to the boiler to get heated up. But an air source heat pump throws loads of water through to cool down only a little bit, and relies on the volume of that. So you need an engineer who knows how to achieve that. There's a few ways of doing that. So essentially you need pipes that are big enough, you need radiators that are big enough to deliver that heat through a larger space, but larger pipes, and through a different mechanism. Rather than being very hot, you need lots of it. Anyway, this is my house, it's a mid-terrace. We've got a room-in roof extension. If you like, this is what an air source heat pump looks like. There is a 7,500 boiler upgrade scheme available at the moment. Who knows how long that will last? Will it last forever? Does it need to go up? Don't know, but that is available currently. So, what are the challenges with doing that in a Victorian home? Well, I have put wooden floors down everywhere, so let's have a look here. So we bought the house because it had this lovely, it's not oak, it's walnut, American walnut floor with the different colours, and it was all the way around here, but we had a water leak and got it replaced, and so this is Tico. So that is one thing, so that's one challenge. You can't necessarily just rip up carpet, lift the floorboards and put new pipes in. It's a bit difficult. Same in the front room, and this is solid walls. We've got solid walls. If I go back to the first picture, solid stonework. If you zoomed in, you'd be able to see the end on bricks. So that is a challenge too. We've also got sash windows that leak heat a bit more than casement windows, and these might be sort of 10, 15, 20 years old, not sure. And we've got single panel radiators, so these might all need upgrading, but if you make them into double, they're a bit wider. If you make them into triple, you know, they might reduce your walkway space. So that's one thing to think about. We've got other small radiators that might need to be made bigger, etc. too. And in the bathroom we got Antico put down too, and this is where our boiler is hidden in this cupboard. So I'll show you more there, and our radiators are in here. So some of these like for like swaps under this thing. The radiator cover won't fit, it needs to be a little bit higher, 5 or 10 centimeters higher, to meet the heat loss. But things like this hallway one will need to be made double or triple. I think we chose double, so that it provides the same amount of heat, and so you need more convectors and more space to get more water through to deliver that heat more. So that's part of my garbled explanation. I hope that was good enough for you. But most of them, including this small little room for my daughter's nursery, the radiators will be almost like for like swaps. You just change a single panel for a double convector, and Bob's your uncle, it just about meets them. The bedroom will need to be a little wider, but not noticeably, but we should get a lot more comfort from this, and the same in our office where we are right now. We're a little bit wider, and it might get a little bit close to these plugs, but otherwise should meet our heat loss from that. We've got our EPC slightly wrong, because we've got 50 mils of insulation here. This is a stud wall leading to solid brick, but I've DIY'd 300 mils up there. Now the heat loss calculation software doesn't quite deal with attic rooms very well, so we've had to pretend that it's a full-sized one. We did a fudge factor, because this is 300 mil and that's 50. I've done a fudge factor of just calling it all 200 and pretending it's a full-size height room, because the software that we were using didn't quite adjust for that. So that's the wrong way. And then this is our bathroom. We've got a towel radiator here hidden. They don't put out a lot. This will be a bit colder, and so you just leave the door open, etc., or oversize the other rooms to compensate for this being underheated through that. And then this is our spare room, and you know, when people come to stay, and ends up being our washing room and dehumidifying room. So these will have to be oversized, but they can get wider because it's not really usable space. We'll put K3s in here, and heat engineer thinks that'll be fine for weight. What we think is we've got 22 mils coming up through these trunkings. And we don't know, we need to double check that they're not 15s, because if they're 15s that affects things, but otherwise it should be fine. And so there's several bits where we've had a survey, we've come round, we think we've got a good plan for an SOC pump, but we do need to make sure that these are 22s and that they're not smaller. And this, again in the hall work, is right next to the bathroom, and so some of the pipe work comes down here and then goes downstairs. It may go under here to go look at on the halfway landing, so the pipe work may run under there, so we're going to have to do a bit more investigation work if we go through with it. And this is a lovely picture of Martha, but also this is another bit of trunking where the pipe work goes through. So if these are all 22s coming up from the boiler round along the bathroom down over here, under the floorboards, and then up here, then that would be nice to know. So essentially, because your flow rates need to be higher, you need fatter pipes, and so the amount of flow you can get through that's only going to drop a certain amount of degrees to work well with heat pumps means that you can only get so much heat through them. So luckily, if we've got 22s going up and 22s going down, you can essentially split them. So 22 mil pipework can easily do 5 kilowatt heat loss, and perhaps I'll get the Heat Geek website up to show you that. But if we're able to get the flow coming in from outside and go up a 22 up to the this floor and the top floor, then that'll be fine, as long as we can go the other way down to downstairs to have a different flow. So we can get 5 kilowatts down to the down floor, and the upstairs floors are both a bit less. So that will be good. A little bit of investigation work here, and here's another bit of trunking. And we've seen in our meter cupboard down here that we do have 22 mils coming down, so we can definitely get the downstairs floor heated well, which would be lovely to have a properly heated house with better heating controls than we have on our old 20-year-old backseat boiler. But essentially this is another bit of trunking where some of the heat piping comes, and this is where our boiler is upstairs in the bathroom. Some of this is going to have to go, so we might have to have a little bit of ceiling cut out to make sure that the pipes work, which probably comes along here and then goes across here, is the right size. Because if we fit a system and actually the pipe work here is limiting the flow and stopping it working, that'll be a disaster, and we'll have a poorly performing system. So this is where the heat pump's going to go in our backyard. So we'll get some of this plant work moved, etc. Get these taken off the lean-to extension, and this is where the Valent or the NIBI 11 kilowatt heat pump will be, because we have a 10.75 kilowatt heat loss from our software. So how do you get an estimate of what your heat loss will be? Well, you've got to calculate it. So you've got to put in your size of rooms, you've got to use a software. My heating engineer used this one, and I've used this before. It's a bit difficult to use if you're on the free version, but essentially this was my estimate of oversizing the house a little bit and putting that the ceilings were a bit higher than they were. It was up to 12 kilowatts. The main building is 11, and the tiny extension of our bathroom was only going to be 1. But that's simplified, it's very simplified. And it's all based on, you've got to put in what's your walls, what's your windows, how many windows you have, what's your wall to window ratio, and all this sort of thing. If I take you back to the start or the project info, we can show you here. So I've just put different things in. You've got to choose your U values for all these different things. You've got to choose your type of floor, and then you can play around with what the results are, and you get something out there. And so they're predicting we'd do 29,000 kilowatt hours of heat output. That wouldn't be what goes on your electricity bill. You've got your SCOP, or because your heat pump, how it works is essentially it turns 1 unit of electricity into many more units of heat, and it works by cooling the outside out, sucking the heat from the air passing over the coils, that the fan's sucking it through and pushing that into your home through magic. And so if you had a SCOP of 3, you'd divide that up in 10, and you'd have to buy 10,000 kilowatt hours of electricity to create that. Or if you get a really good low temperature design, then you might be able to divide it by 4 or 5. But this is a bit of an overestimate, because this is higher than it actually is, or actually should be. So let's show you another way of estimating this size. So I'll just get a bit bigger again. Let's go onto the EPC site. So I've looked at my EPC, and so yeah, I put mine as 150 square meters. It's actually a bit lower than that. It says that I'm an E based on the information that they inputted into this, but is incorrect because they didn't account for some of the changes we'd made. So this is based on solid brick, no insulation in the roof. Very easy for me to get up in my roof and put the insulation in, so I did that ages ago. And we got TRVs, but we didn't have programmers and stuff and blind passes and etc. So they're marking as downfill stuff. And I've put more LED lights in and stuff, so that's even better, etc. But even the EPC is claiming 24,000 rather than 29 kilowatt hours. So that's another thing. So they're saying that, well, carbon emissions would be this amount, but and the potential reduction could be only down to 2.6. And they don't suggest heat pumps, because when they did this, the methodology was very anti-heat pump on cost reasons, for running cost reasons. So this is where we are. So if I just put room and roof insulation, which I already have, I should be a 66D. So even me just DIYing some roof insulation and having some of my eaves being insulated will get me a 66D. So it thinks I'm an E, I'm actually a D, so we could already do that and already take that saving off. Internal and external wall insulation, it would cost about that much, and that would bump me up a lot. in terms of the EPC rating, but you know, is it worth it to spend 10 grand? And we've got lovely pretty brickwork, etc. So do I really want to cover it all up? Probably not. So let's just show you. I'm actually in a conservation area as well, so I think getting planning for that would be a nightmare, and I don't think it's doable. So yeah, so you've got all these design features in the brickwork and stuff, so we're just not going to get that past planning. And do I want to lose 10 centimetres in the living room and my bedroom? I could probably get away with it, it'd be good, but it'd be a lot of disruption. Ceiling's got to come off, you can't have bits that aren't insulated, because that would create cold bits and they'd get wet, and you'd get problems with condensation, damp inside, so there's consequences. So yeah, you've got to be careful with what you do. So that's that. So anyway, and then low energy lighting, nice and easy thing, already done of course. Heating controls, well, you know, people go for smart thermostats and things, or smart thermostats, but they might just be on off, and so actually these things might not save you that much. I could spend 2 or 3 grand on a new condensing boiler, yes, absolutely, but with my thin radiators, they'd have to have a high flow temperature to deliver the heat through those silly radiators, and it wouldn't condense because the temperature would be too much. As I was explaining before, do I want solar thermal? Not really, got to service it a lot. It doesn't look bad, it looks fine, but yeah, servicing costs, paying a heating engineer to go up on the roof to service it every year doesn't sound great or easy, and with the dormers and things in the way in the morning and on the other side in the afternoon, might not be that easy, etc. So yes and no, probably not. And a tiny solar PV panel array, no thanks. They'll be a lot more powerful these days, so you could get 3 or 4 kilowatts on the right bits, but actually my roof with the dormers makes that very difficult, so that's not much of a goer anyway. And you notice it doesn't suggest heat pumps, because back in the day they weren't suggested. So if we go to my Octopus account, how much gas did I use last year? Well, this year I've been using 1,000 in January, 1,000 kilowatt hours in February, 1,000 in March. Not sure how accurate this is, because the smart meters have connectivity issues, and so I can't see last year's. It could be before, and I've downloaded my data before, but it's all been lost because I had to change my smart meter because it wasn't connecting very well, which is a shame. But it seems like we use around 140, 150 kilowatt hours a month for hot water, because we don't have gas cooking anymore, because we got rid of that because it's poisonous. So yeah, so actually for a predicted 30,000 or 24,000 kilowatt hours, we might only be using 4, which is dramatically less than we should. And so actually this may be smart data underreporting, but shh, because they'll I don't want to pay more, so we'll see. And I remember looking from last year's, you know, one year we'd use 11,000 kilowatt hours, we'd never use 20, and especially post-Ukraine with all the gas prices going crazy, we'd been underheating the house, and we'd been rationing and things. So I think the most I've seen is 11, and I think that's when we were being a bit cheap, and so, you know, the real amount might be like 15, and so often we have a cold home at the moment with this on-off heating strategy of put the boiler on, put it on really hot, house gets too hot, oh my god, turn it off, and then gradually it gets freezing by the time we put it on again. So you get this uncomfortable feeling. So that would explain why heat pumps are better, because actually they're not designed to go, oh, crazy high, and then off. They're designed to just trickle it in, and just keep your house up to temperature all the time. And so that can increase your heating bill, because instead of being cold most of the time and being uncomfortable, they always keep it warm. So if you never have your heating on and you put a heat pump in, you'll pay more because you're keeping your house warm instead of cold. So you've got to bear that in mind if you are on a tight budget, and don't use any heating. Then you might have a problem if you install one of these and actually keeps your house warm, because how much heat your house loses is more if your house is hotter. So that's one thing to bear in mind. So what might it cost me? So I live in quite a big house, look, 450 cubic meters, 150 squared meters, big house, etc. Lots of hot water needs with 2 little girls, and I'm sure they're going to be teenage girls, and so it might use a lot. Octopus Energy do them. They're a big installer. They get a lot of work. So they're quoting with the grant it would be 15 all in, but with the grant it would be 7,500. A house like this, you might pay 3 or 5 grand for a combi boiler. So is it a little bit more? Yes. If you're in smaller houses, they say that they quote from as little as £500 or £499. So actually in a 3-bed house with better insulation standards and things, you might be paying a lot less than this. You might only be paying £1,000, so less than you get for a new combi. Like a like-for-like replacement of a combi without doing any heat loss calculations. Woof! That's £1 grand, that's £2 grand, that's £3 grand. And so you might be paying less for a heat pump than that. But you know, for a big house like mine, 7,500. That's not a deal breaker for me, since I'm lucky to be in a well-paid profession. But that's what Octopus are saying. Doing a 5-year warranty, workmanship warranty, etc. And what they're saying is included. You get your heat pump, you get a water cylinder, you get any necessarily radiator or electrical work. And so they haven't scouted mine. They don't need know that I have 10 radiators that would need upgrading. And any pipe work changes is included, but there's terms and conditions for that. So they might lose money on mine, whereas if you go to a single trader, they can't lose money on a job because they're going to make double money from the next person. They've got to quote individually and averagely. So, but they can do a better bespoke job, because Octopus will only fit a heat pump to 50 degrees, and therefore the closer you can get it down. You want your house to be 21. Do you care what flow temperature you have? No, you don't, but you do for your wallet. So if you have a heat pump, high temperature heat pump going around at 65 degrees, just because technically it can, and you don't have to change any radiators, okay, great, you could get it for 500 quid, or you get it cheap, but your running costs are going to be awful, because the heat pump's efficiency and running costs are all about sending around 30 degree water, or 40 degree water, or 45, and not 65. 65 you're only going to get a scop of 2.5, and really to break even with gas you need 3.6, and if you've got a flow temperature less than 50 you should be above that. At less than 45 you should be above 4, etc. So you really want a scop of above 4. What else is there? Well, HeatGeek, a leading design company, they are guesstimating projected heat losses based on addresses and EPCs and things that they can auto pull from the internet, and so they're guessing it's 10.5. My guesstimated through inaccurate measurements of my rooms, etc., was 11 or 12. The heating engineer came round and took 6 hours over doing this very carefully and very diligently, said it was 10.75. So 6 hours to do, very diligent heat loss, gets 10.75, but auto run through HeatGeek is pulling out 10.5. So this is actually really quite good. So check out the HeatGeek YouTube website to learn more about that. But yeah, what are they proposing? You know, this is the timeline. So if I say, yes, get me a design consultation, then all of these things can start, etc., etc. But they used to have a map, a HeatGeek map for trained professionals, and this firm that I've chosen to come round were on it. I looked at them on Facebook, I looked at them on YouTube. They're very good. I'll put a link into them here. May well go with them if the price is right, and it isn't too difficult to do. It sounds like it will be possible, so if the price is right I'll go for it, and I'm very excited to have a warmer, more comfortable house, and to get off gas and get the meter out, and get the supply out, and really rapidly improve things. So I'm excited about that. Let me know if there's any questions. I'll try and put some link into other things. I've made a playlist about heat pumps, or well-performing heat pumps in solid brick houses. Some people think you can't have a house without good or high standards of insulation, that it's impossible to have a heat pump, or that it wouldn't be economic. Of course, it is cheaper to have an insulated house no matter what. You know, if you're losing less heat, you will need to put in less heat. Absolutely, but heat pumps work fine in solid wall properties, and so I'll put what are we on, 24 minutes, I'll put a link in here to my playlist of solid wall properties with heat pumps that work really well. But there's loads of things. You could Google Cotswold house with solid walls and heat pump and essays concernings, article all about his I'm trying to think of the word. What's the type of property where you can't do anything to? Grade 2 listed. Grade 2 listing, that's what I'm thinking. He's got grade 2 listed solid stone walled property in Cotswold, and he's put a cascading heat pump in, and it performs really good and really well. And so I'll share all the London terraces that have been done with heat pumps and stuff that I've seen through Urban Plumber, etc. Anyway, big long rant. Big tour through my house. I guess the last thing to look at is where everything's going to go, and the little video that I made. So let's go back to the front and let's add this in. Is this it? No. Okay, let's refresh a second, see if it's loaded. No, I think it's still loading, so I can't put the video I took in, but I'm really excited about it. So heat pump's going to possibly go here. We did a noise assessment to neighbour's window, which is like a mirror of here. So it'd be about here, well, under my face. Let's minimize my face. So yeah, this is the property boundary. You can see the chimney and a mirror image to their bedroom window here. And it was not going to it'd be over the noise limits, etc. It was going to be less than 40 decibels at their window, which is whisper quiet. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Really pleased to do this. I'll show you more. The installation might take 4 days, they thought. That will depend on what the pipework's like, and when they take the trunking off that I showed you. If the pipework's smaller, could be a lot longer, could be more disruption, etc. But I think this is going to add value to the property, and is going to make our house much warmer, much more comfortable, and is really going to increase my enjoyment of the house anyway. And plus, my wife's in the house all the time, and we have to use an oil heater. So let's show you the office. Yeah, here we go, office. So she uses an oil heater, so we keep the house cold, and she has to use an oil heater to use the office and work from home, so that's far from ideal. So yeah, let me know if there's anything else you'd be interested in. There's clearly a massive gap between what my smart meter says I'm using in gas and what my heat loss is thought to be, and what my EPC is saying I should be using in gas per year. So instead of 24,000, I'm using 4,000. So you know, maybe that my heat loss is vastly overestimated. I mean, my smart bricks work a lot better than we think they do, or perhaps my rear extension really does have cavity walls, and maybe there is some insulation that's still in good order. Very much doubt it, but it could be that either the smart meter is missing a lot of gas use, or that the heat loss is way higher than we'd expect, but way lower than we expect, or the air change is lower. So who knows? We'll see. But thanks for bearing with me. 28 minutes, my longest ever video by a country mile. So maybe some of you made it this far. Who knows? But Heat Geek, or local heat pump installer who knows what they're doing, and you can trust that they know about low flow temperatures. What convinced me to go with this firm, and I'm hopefully going to go with them, is that I can see it from their YouTube channel, from their Facebook videos, that they understand low flow temperature, weather compensation control, heat pump design. So I know that they know what they're doing, and I know they're not just saying, oh yeah, we put in heat pumps just after the grant money, and they're going to collapse their firm and run off to go scam someone else when they get the problems coming, or when they get sued for non-functioning systems. So make sure you know that that firm who's going to install your heat pump has got other customers that they've done that are happy, and that they can tell you, they can say all the right things about heat pumps and the design. because it's not the unit outside that tells that necessarily performs better than one or the other. It's all about the radiator size, the pipe size, or the emitter sizes, because you can have underfloor heating. Okay, right, ciao everyone, like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully we'll have some news about how it goes. Ciao!